Thanks for tuning in to RougeRadio.com. Show 24 of 2012 brought to you this week by Eurostone Professional Series Panels and Stone Illusions Panels. This week on CFL News, Jen talks with Steve Milton from the Hamilton Spectator to recap Week 18 and preview the final week of the regular season. One playoff spot left, two teams fighting it out. Who's it gonna be? This week on Canadian University Football News, Kevin talks with JP Shoiry from acrofoot.com to recap this week's games, including playoffs in the OUA, and preview next week's action. In Canadian Junior Football League news, Josh and John recap playoff scores in semi-final action and which teams are off to the national championship game. Show 24 kicks off hot now.
Does your home lack curb appeal? Is it in need of a facelift? Have you always dreamed of $1 million look but don't have the budget? Now you can have that Park Avenue look that won't break the bank. Introducing new Eurostone Professional Series panels and Stone Illusions panels at EurostonePanels.com. The most realistic, durable, and affordable faux stone product on the market today, our hardened exterior shell sets Eurostone apart from its competition, and the closed-cell polyurethane foam backing provides additional R value. Eurostone panels are available in 2x4 and 4x8 sheets to make quick work of big jobs. We have a variety of stone styles and colors to choose from, so no matter what your existing colors are, you'll find something that fits your home. Come visit us at www.EurostonePanels.com, EurostonePanels.com.
RougeRadio.com. Jen, wrapping up Week 18 action with Steve Milton, columnist from the Hamilton Spectator. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
Not bad.
Good.
Great game, great football games this week. Even the one that I didn't think was going to be all that great, watching the first half, turned into a very close game. So it's been a great weekend of football.
You're referring to the Argo or the Alouettes?
Montreal. Yeah.
Yeah, really. Well, you kind of wonder about both teams there. What Edmonton doing coming out so flat, and the Alouettes. Boy, it was nice to hear the announcers refer to last year, how they lost their last three, then they had the break. Then they came in, they hosted Hamilton and they got beaten. And, so they want to stay a little sharper, and you can bet next week they'll be a little sharper, than they were, Sunday, and I thought that was quite on their part. And of course, the Hamilton's going crazy. The people on the Ticats waiting to see what's happening. If they make that 2-point convert at the end of the game, then Hamilton could easily be out. It reminds me very much because one of the other team that I cover a great deal of, Jen, is the Leafs, the Toronto Maple Leafs. It reminds me a lot of the year that the Leafs thought they were in, but lost out on a penalty a shootout on the Sunday. 24 hours after their last game, two other teams. And it was so reminiscent of that. I could almost feel the Tiger Cats going that way. To me, if the Edmonton and wanted Tiger Cats had lost out, that serves Hamilton right. They, in a more ideal world, would not even be thinking about being in the playoffs at this point. Neither would Edmonton. And frankly, maybe not even the Argos.
I was going to say, but I have to say, as an Argo fan, I would much rather face the Ticats in the playoffs than either the Riders or the Eskimos.
Well, I think everybody in the East was worried about a crossover. Nobody more than the Grey Cup committee, because I'm telling you, I'd have a field day I remember writing last year, get rid of the crossover for sure during the 100th Cup, because you don't want Calgary playing Edmonton in Toronto on the 100th anniversary of the Grey Cup, much of which will be celebrating the east-westernness of Canada.
Yep.
So to me,
with Justin Bieber.
I don't like the crossover, and it's not because I'm from the East. I mean, I've been at this thing so long, any fan interest I have as a fan is neutered completely. I'm a fan of this league and of this game. And I just don't like the possibilities. The last time it was in Toronto, Jen, you had Winnipeg against Calgary. And that was kind of nice because Winnipeg brought some people in, but there was no sort of sense of what this has always stood for, that great national, through sort of emphasizing our differences, the East-Westness, we actually come together.
Yeah,
that's what the Grey Cup has been.
I don't even like Winnipeg being in the East, so.
No, and that's going to be a big thing, isn't it, when Ottawa comes back in? Because you just assume that Winnipeg will go back to the West, but if you look at it, Jen, a whole generation of fans has grown up with them in the East.
It's going to be,
all the marketing's been done on that, and only for 3 or 4 years in there when they went back, even flip-flopped. The whole generation, the generation that's now coming into their money is now starting to make their adult money, and therefore will be buying tickets in the new stadium. So I don't know what's been done behind the scene. Maybe you do, but
I haven't heard anything. I've been
I think it's
making
still
inquiries.
Up in the air.
Yeah, I think it could go either way.
What I do know is it's not as automatic as we would all assume.
No, just because it used to be that way does not mean that it should still be.
No, and that it's twice been that way, and that it happened that way before. I mean, if I'm Winnipeg, can you imagine being a geography teacher in Winnipeg?
We're in the East or the West.
Class,
or the middle.
Winnipeg is in the East.
Yeah, the West. Yeah.
Like,
only in football.
Only in football. Or only in football could it be in the East. That's about that's about as east as the setting sun, Winnipeg. And there's a team. Speaking of teams not deserving to be there, there's a certain great justice in them getting beaten out
again. Yeah, that's the same thing. I mean, but the first game of the weekend didn't really have, in terms of playoff implications,
nothing.
No. Doesn't mean anything. They're playing for pride.
And didn't it look like it?
It did.
And on top of that, Jen, it wasn't the last game. Right,
no.
So you don't have BC, who's going to finish first, really saying, okay, we can't make that first place mistake of not playing anybody, and not playing up to our best because we have 2 weeks off. So you didn't even have that going for you, where on the last game before the playoffs, a team that's home and cooled would try to get really, really, really sort of into a groove and give you that. I mean, I just didn't like the game at all. I mean, it was one of those useless games.
I guess the Stamps were going out trying to prove that, if they come in for the Western Final, because it's not a when, it's an if they come in for the Western Final, that they will give BC a run for their money. But
there's always a reason
not trying.
To play well. Yeah. There's always a reason to play well. Besides personal pride, but you're right, that's one of them. You might face them at the end and all those things, and that's what coaches do. They try to get you up for that game. But there's not much you can do about it when it's a week before the end of the regular season, and both teams are home and cool. And that's what I think made the other 3 games better. There was at least some kind of interest from at least one of the teams in each of the games, right? And in many cases two of the teams, right? So
I mean, and that's not taking anything away from BC. BC played an average game, I mean, again, without Travis Lulay, so it's harder. Calgary looked very good. Drew Tate comes back in, looks great. That's great for them. I mean, it's a good statement game for Calgary, but it doesn't do anything for them. Congratulations. You're still in second.
Congratulations. And, and in Calgary's, I mean, they have for them, again, a nothing game next week, but it's never a nothing game, is it?
Especially not when you're playing Edmonton.
That's what I'm saying. It's never, and if you can put Edmonton out of the playoffs, hello.
Oh, yeah, you got to do it.
How cute's that?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I think Toronto faces the same thing.
With Hamilton.
I think we got to start giving the schedule. I know it's pretty easy with 8 teams.
Yep.
But, boy, there's been some really
smart scheduling done.
2 rivalry games ending the games with one of the teams could be out of the playoffs and the other team home and cooled. You could have run into that situation in reverse. You could have run into the situation which we thought we were going to have. Yep. If the Argos lose, as you know, in Saskatchewan, and were you betting on them winning? Even as a fan?
I kind of was, actually. I was.
All right, well, you're smarter than I am.
I was figuring, I picked them to win because I figured, okay, I picked them to win for the last 3 weeks, and they owe me one at this point in time.
Well, okay, all right, so you're... you're supposed to know this game. You're not supposed to bet like you don't know the game.
Well,
next thing you're going to bet on the color of the uniforms, for crying out loud. They owed you one?
Yeah. Well, they can't. Well, I guess they can't win at home, so they have to win on the road. If you're going to win, you have to win somewhere.
Yeah, because there's nowhere else to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
I figured they have to win on the road.
That'll be Hamilton next year.
Well, yeah, they're not going to be at home or on the road. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But I mean, the Bombers Ticats game, I think Hamilton had to win not only to keep their very slim, slim playoff hopes alive, but it's the last game at Ivor Wynne Stadium. You really don't want to go out with a stinker.
No, you really don't. And you know, I don't know if you know how it started, but I mean, Ivor Wynne had been there 20-some-odd years before the Ticats moved in, because the Tiger Cats weren't the Tiger Cats. There were two teams in town, and they took turns sort of playing through the 40s in what was then and has become the CFL, sort of the big Eastern Conference. And another one played in a little bit lesser one. They were the Wildcats and the Tigers. And neither of them were doing that well. One was winning the local league, but the other was getting killed in what was then called the Little Big Four, which is now the Eastern Conference. And so they amalgamated. Each team played there in 1949, but they amalgamated the team in 1950. So the Tiger Cats, as we, you know, with the hyphen of all two names, all of that, have really only played there since 1950. And I'd say only, that's quite a long time.
Yeah,
that's 60. I mean, but the stadium had existed 20-some-odd years before then. And some football was played there. It was mostly track and soccer and a whole bunch of other things, because we had another stadium in town. And even in those days, they would dress at the other stadium. Even the home team would dress at the other stadium for a game and come over and practice and play at Ivor Wynne. So the first game, and who knew? Who's still around? But finally we went to the microfilm last week and got the newspaper out. And this isn't the first game at home, because they played on the road as the Tiger Cats first in 1950. So their first home game, Labor Day against the Argonauts.
Of course, and that's perfect.
Knowing what that's become, you couldn't make that up.
No.
I mean, it was sort of big then, but it wasn't anywhere near what the institution that it had become. It's just been, that's when we always play the Argos. Because they used to only play, in the Tiger Cats' first year, their very first game was on September 2nd, a Saturday, in Ottawa, in an afternoon game. And their second game was 2 days later on Labor Day in Hamilton. Right, so that's what they used to do.
2 day rest.
Up until the 60s, and old-timers will remember this, Western teams used to come through and usually play 2 games in the East to save money. And they would play on a Thursday night in, want to say, Montreal, and Sunday in Hamilton, or Wednesday in Ottawa, and Saturday in Ottawa and Toronto, something like that. So, it was a different game then, too. It'd be awful tough. Guys have a tough time now playing even 5 or 6 days apart. And that's going to be quite interesting this weekend in Toronto, because Toronto comes off this on a very short week, a game they don't have to win, a week before the playoffs, and I'm interested to see how they handle it, because it's not like this is a juggernaut. They can't sort of, let's rest our stars. I mean, if I'm them, I'm looking to get a few things together here.
Please define stars for the Toronto Argonauts.
I'm sorry?
Please define the word stars for the Toronto Argonauts. They don't know who they are.
Yeah, I mean, big names. How about that?
Yeah.
But they have a couple of guys. They have some guys.
They have a couple, but you can't see, okay, I'm going to sit down all these guys in my first team offense. There really hasn't been that, because there's been so much disruption at quarterback.
Well, that's right. And because
disruption at receiver, disruption at running back.
Well, they don't have any flow.
No.
In my mind. They've shown moments of flow. I mean, Ricky was out for 3 games? He's you've been back 2 now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So to me, they've got but they're coming off the 3 days too. So there's a whole bunch of things involved here. Like your normal tendency would be to get guys a bit of rest, but there's a number of things involved here. First of all, there's integrity. It's not the same in football. Football teams tend to worry more about themselves. But if it's hockey or baseball, there's the integrity of the competitive schedule. Football pays far less attention to that than basketball's not so hot on them either. But in other sports, you would make sure that you played your best lineup, so that because
otherwise you're giving other people an unfair advantage.
Because they only play once a week, and you really have to worry about yourself. I just can't. I don't. Can you figure it? I don't know exactly what Scott will do there.
I have no clue, because in a way you almost want the Ticats to win, hope the Stamps beat the Eskimos, and that you have Hamilton sneaking into the playoffs, because I think you have a better shot of beating the Ticats.
Which you would never say out loud, although you hear some other things. I've heard this for many years. You can't go in say I'm going to do this, but in the same sense, strategically, if you're looking from a pure strategic point of view, that does make the most sense for the Argos. That's their best chance to
getting annihilated by the Alouettes, I suspect.
Do you think they'd have a better chance against Hamilton than they would against Edmonton? Truly?
Based on the last 2 games against Hamilton, yes. Based on Labor Day and the Labor Day rematch, yes.
Yeah, they barely won Labor Day, and yes, they won.
They certainly seem to have the Ticats number for those 2 games.
Yeah, and those 2, but and I wouldn't say they had their number on Labor Day. That one could have gone.
But they dug out and won
either way. But the
victory.
following week was a wipeout. It flattered actually Hamilton, the other one. But
Hamilton had it tough against Edmonton. So
the one thing that a lot of teams are telling me that if Hamilton gets into the playoffs, that means they'll have won 2 or 3 in a row. And maybe like for 3 years, everybody's been waiting for this team to get it together. And they got together huge on 1 game last year against Montreal, and almost blew that. But I've gone deaf to it because I'm out with this team every day, and I'm not waiting for them to get better. I'm just hoping they can make up for they cannot develop. The time for development's over.
It's over.
They have a hell of an offense, and I think that's what scares everybody, Jen. More than any team in this league, even more than the Montreal Alouettes. Maybe not more than BC. Okay, so just behind BC, this team can strike and put up 7 in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Whether they hand it off to the guy in the backfield or whether they hit one of the 6 guys who can catch the ball and take it all the way. Well, 5, Dave Stalla can't go the whole way. But he can kill you on the way there.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And, if you get good Henry, you get good Hank, this team can slice and dice you offensively. Now, the thing is, you can probably do that to their defense, but the last 2 games, they've started to show something. I think it's too late. I really do think it's too late, but they are really, it was really close to being on time of developing that front 4. It's actually a front 5, and they're rotating through, and they had a lot of pressure the last 2, a lot of pressure. A team that's gone, that had, was so far last in the turnover battle all year. I mean, in terms of plus minus, what were they? Did they force 6 last week and 5?
Yep.
I mean, that's 11, I think, in 2 games.
Yeah.
It might be 12, or it might, I'm not. Sometimes fast, Jen, and I don't get along,
they're definitely
but
going
it's somewhere in there. Yeah, so there's a lot of people that say that. Again, I'm saying, look, and I'm with this team all the time. You're seeing it from the outside. I don't know that they're that capable of coming up with that. I mean, they have to win another game to make it 2 in a row. They've only had 1 2-game winning streak all year, and it was as part of their 3-game winning streak at games 3 through 5, and that's the only time they won more than once all year in a row.
Yeah.
And that was back in late July.
I think as a Ticat fan, that would have to scare you.
It does scare you, and the fact that they haven't been great on the road. What's that?
Yeah, beating up Winnipeg doesn't really prove anything. Although the Argos couldn't do it last week, but beating up Winnipeg doesn't actually prove anything.
One of these things when we look at that kind of thing is how far back do you want to go? Okay, so Ticats are 1-0 in their last 1 game, right?
Yeah.
But if you take it back 2 or 3, they've actually had chances of winning. They clobbered BC, they clobbered Montreal. They barely lost. They had Calgary beat if they don't have a brain cramp on the whole.
Yeah.
How about drying the tee, boys?
Yeah.
You're holding a slippery ball on a slant, putting pressure on a slant. You better have something to have a resist. I mean, that's one of those lessons learned, but you may not have a chance to ever use it again.
Yeah.
So they could have conceivably won 3 out of the last 4 and have played well in those all 4 games.
And then they wouldn't be sitting and waiting for somebody else to defend. Then they could almost be the masters of their own fate.
Well, and that's part of it. And they haven't won a close game all year.
No, they either win big or they lose big.
Yeah. Oh, and the close games and the games that have been close, they've lost them.
They've lost
to Toronto.
Yep.
They've lost them to Toronto, and they lost to Calgary, and they lost to, there was one other one in there that was close.
Yeah.
And they lost, and that doesn't, but the part of that is because the defense has been so, I'm not saying the defense is any good now. They do have great linebackers, terrific linebackers. But there's, usually linebackers are the bridge between the front and the back, and the front and the back have just been terrible. Now, so what they've done is they threw a lot of more experience. When I talked about development time is over, they said, this isn't about development. We're going to try and steal a couple of wins here. So they went with experience across most of the back, certainly across the near side with Jeff Tisdale, Bo Smith. They played side by each, one playing corner and the other playing half, and then reversing that for many, many years on the short side. Over time, I think they thought those weren't going to be the guys this year, that they'd replace them with better younger, but it didn't develop. And then moving D-Webb to safety has added a veteran and then kind of a physical presence back there. Now, this isn't an all-star team across the back by any means. But what it has is some kind of veteranness to it and some kind of anticipation and familiarity. And so the Cats are trying to catch something in a bottle, some kind of lightning in a bottle for the defense for a few games, and hope that it can just not do enough damage. They've had, I think, 11 of their last 13 over 30 points against, right?
Yeah.
Tough on an offense.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, they're playing indoors the rest of the way. I mean, any games they play the rest of the year will all be indoors. What's that?
Yeah, the weather forecast for this week. People can complain about, how domes are in football. It's supposed to be pouring rain on Thursday. I am quite glad I will be nice and inside.
Yeah, when you got a guy that can, like I say, that can put up, he's already set the franchise record for most touchdown passes in the season. That sort of sneaks by people outside of Hamilton, because, it's going to be one of those, they don't make the playoffs, it'll be one of the most hollow records ever. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you, Danny McManus had the previous one. At least they made the playoffs that year. That they weren't very good. It was after their glory years. It was just on the tail end of it. But I think that really helps when you got a guy like Henry that can throw the ball like that. That can. I'm not saying he always does. But Henry's a bit pumped too. You could see it in the game the other day. He did a few things he hasn't done for a long time. His focus. He scrambled a little more outside. He stood up longer than he might have, say, a few games back. Not that he was going down easily, but what I mean is he fought off a couple of tackles to make plays, particularly one day Avon Coburn there that holy smokes, he's in playoff mode here. And he's taken a hit, and he deservedly has taken a hit. And I mean, he's had that kind of year. But really, there have been times when the offense just has to make up for the defense. It's unfair, but that's the equation.
Yep.
And they haven't. And they haven't got that key first down in the fourth quarter to hang on to the ball. One of the problems with this offense is it's a little better now with Avon Coburn in there. It's not a particularly a ball control offense, and why would you just want to hang on to the ball when you can score 7 at the drop of a hat? Well, there are times you do want to just hang on to the ball, and that's in the fourth quarter when you're nursing a lead and your defense sucks. Right? and that's there's been a lot of games this year, Jen, where they haven't delivered on that. Just get us 2 first down in the fourth quarter, we win this game, and then we don't have to put this porous defense back on the field. So
yeah, and they haven't been able to do that. So
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if I'm the Argos, I don't know what I do. Like, I honestly don't. I mean, I go out and beat Saskatchewan so that that you're guaranteed a home playoff game.
Yeah.
Because up until this week,
that looks great on them. Congratulations to them. That nobody thought they'd do that except you.
Well, I thought they'd win.
Yeah.
That was more of a. It was more. I think it was more wishful thinking, sending out, going, okay, come on.
Kind of hoping. Yeah.
It makes me 1 for 4 in the last. It makes me 1 and 3 in the last 4 weeks. So really, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I also picked the Ticats to win the East. So, I picked the Ticats to win the East before the season. So yeah. Sorry, Ticat fans, that might have been my fault. Apparently, I'm a person.
Nobody knew what their front four was going to be like, and that turned out to be a disaster most of the year. Now you take a look at it and you go, boy, if the season was a couple of games longer, this
everything is very, very. Well, Ricky Ray being back to the Argos is a big thing. I mean, obviously that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Just having having Chad Packard back again, huge for the Argos. Just because they got some tools, and Mo Mann played very well. Oh, first touchdown in the Argos.
And he really did. And Mo looked, If Ricky's going to be as effectiveness, like he plays that great sort of there nobody maybe in the history of this league has thrown a corner ball, the ball to the corner route, the deep fade like Ricky Ray.
No,
and if guys like Mo Mann are going to be able to run and make that play, then it's going to be tough because they've already got the guy to stretch the field a little bit. I've never been a big fan of their receivers, if you want to know the truth. Chad's made a believer out of me. I thought he was just a fast guy, but he's shown a few more things that actually you could put a capital R on receiver for him now. He's not just a fast guy that happens to be a receiver. But I haven't been a huge, but boy, they didn't erase some doubts.
See, I've always been a Dury fan. Like I've liked Andre Dury.
Yeah, but he gets hurt. He's too hurt all the time. But I think he's.
But when he's there, he's really good and he's dangerous. Like
he's one of those
constantly underestimated, but man, can he burn you.
When you look back at this period, might we not look back at this period and say, whoa. I mean, because Dury could be around too. If he plays that near slot, and I think Scott will, after a year with him, and if you get a full year of him in the lineup, then he'll even use him more. I mean, Scott comes on in Montreal where they've always had that, haven't in a few recent years, but way back to Pringle and Haskins where they used their running back and what they call a near slot, where you can run that guy into a counter and for the line, and that's what Hamilton will do wanted to do with Thigpen. That's what when they use double backs, what they want to do. You could do that with Dury too, but yeah, he's a heck of a player. Yeah. He can do everything. I mean, and his football knowledge and sense is incredible.
Yeah,
how
honestly,
he squares up on a peel back block, all of those things. It's really good.
Yeah, he really does. He's a student of the game, and it's very apparent if you watch him that to him it's I've often described football as kind of chess with life-size pawns and a lot of hitting, and it really is. You can tell that that's how Dury sees it. It's tactical. If I move this way, then he might move this way. Then I'll move this way. It's 5 moves ahead type thinking.
And that could, despite the fact that he has, had all those problems. I mean, I'm surprised he ever got back to playing after that, surgery on each. Was it Achilles or knees?
Yeah, Achilles, I think it was Achilles. Yeah.
Yeah, and on each one though. Yeah. I mean, you got to give that guy credit. And if he can just keep his health, I think he's got a lot of, because of his brains, he's going to play a long time in this league. He won't have to just use speed.
No, yeah, he's a smart receiver, not just a fast one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's not to say anything about Saskatchewan. I mean, Saskatchewan had a good game.
Yeah.
Just not enough to win.
Well, of course, I didn't see all of it, so I'm
so you missed the controversy.
I was obviously at Ivor Wynne, right? So
right.
Doing the cleanup after that game, in terms of, and there was also a celebration of the, Stephen Brunt narrated a really nice,
in the rain?
Well, yeah, a lot of people stayed though to watch it. It was, they have that great video board, right?
It's up on YouTube now. If you didn't get to see it, you can search it.
Yeah.
And I recommend it to everyone. I recommend it to everyone to see that. It's a great.
Well, and I haven't seen it either because I was down in the locker room with the guys, right? I'm trying to get there.
Search it on YouTube. It's more than worth the time to watch it.
Yeah, well,
even if you're not a Ticat fan, even if you're not a Ticat fan, if you're a fan of the league at all, it's important. You can't be a fan of any team in this league without being a fan of every other team in this league. That's
a really good point, and I agree with you 100%. And particularly that one. I mean, everybody says that Saskatchewan and Hamilton. If Saskatchewan isn't your second favorite team, Hamilton is. Right? It's one of those things where they if you live in Calgary, then Hamilton could be your second favorite team.
Yeah,
right?
well,
Saskatchewan never would be, but
no.
If you're in the East, Saskatchewan's always your second favorite team. That's just,
a lot of them are originally from out west too, right? So
there's a lot of that. The emigres that show up everywhere.
Yeah, it's a new fun game though, right? Every game at the Dome, I go looking around. How long does it take me to spot my first person in a Rider jersey, despite the fact that the Riders aren't playing?
Yeah.
It doesn't count when the Riders are in town, but when the Riders aren't in town, it takes usually within the first quarter there's somebody on the jumbotron in a Rider jersey.
Oh yeah, no, it's like the Irish. It's sort of the there are so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, the diaspora, or diasporas. You're right. That is the proper way to say it. Are everywhere and proud about it and very vocal about it. And they all wear green too. Both. I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe it's the green.
Maybe it's the green. I like the green. I don't know.
Yeah. It could be. So, I don't know. Now, obviously, I kind of like to see them do well. I'm not a fan particularly of anybody, but I am a fan of people, and I always liked Corey Chamberlain when he was here. He was really honest when things were struggling. He had one of those defenses for 4 years here, right through Labor Day. Where the hell's the rush and where the hell's the secondary? Well, prior to this year, they usually got together around Labor Day or just after on both ends. Well, this year, I don't know if it's even together yet, but if it is, it happened. So that's a little bit late. So
yeah,
but you kind of hope for Corey because in fact, a lot of the head coaches were Hamilton guys. But I guess in this league, that's the case. Everybody's head stops everywhere, right? So.
Yeah, it's very it's very interconnected. I mean, yes, because I'm going to get emails and calls and tweets. Yes, the play by Isaac on Durant should have garnered a penalty. No, it couldn't garner a penalty after the play had ended.
No,
you cannot retroactively call plays.
That doesn't mean that the guy shouldn't have got it first. I mean, no. You're right. You can't retro. And anybody, and I'll stand by on that one, anybody in Saskatchewan or anywhere else that thinks you can, think what kind of world would we be living in?
Oh, can you imagine how long it would take to play a game?
Well, right. And can you imagine the first team that doctors replays?
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, because home team video board, so what if it's only replayed on your home team? Like if they only replay the home team hits?
Well, remember in hockey they didn't let you used to do that.
Yeah, you couldn't show it.
Now they do now because you're saying, well, wait a minute. I'm paying $100 for a ticket and I don't go where the guy at home is watching for free is. So,
yeah. Which I fully get. But it's something that now the league has to deal with it. Because it wasn't called during the game, and even if it was called during the game, the worst thing, you're going to get a roughing the passer, or you're going to have a helmet, you're going to get an ejection. Yeah. Right? You'll get a rough play ejection.
Well, I don't think that was an ejectable. I don't think it was
ejectable, but even in the absolute worst case scenario, that's going to happen, and the league is still going to come in and do something. So I think the league is still going to come in and do something. It helps that he's a Toronto player because it means you're not waiting weeks for them to be next in Toronto to have the disciplinary hearing.
Oh yeah.
So it can just happen. It's one of those things. Unfortunately, unless we get robots doing the refereeing, people are going to miss stuff.
But even the robots, how would you, that's an interpretive
how do you control them? Who programs the robots?
Yeah, and when there's an interpretive, it still is some interpretation there. But to me, that was definitely a penalty.
It was definitely a penalty. And I don't know why it wasn't called, but once it wasn't called, it doesn't matter how many times they show it on the scoreboard, it still can't be called.
Well, this is an easy one, isn't it, Jen? Isn't this the easy one? Because the game that he's playing in next means nothing. And you're right. They don't have to worry about it. They're right there. They can talk about it to the guy on Monday. They can, just say pop over to King Street before you go to your King Street's where the head offices are, and then head over to go to practice. But it doesn't kill you to put him out. And then it looks like if you don't do that, now what you've said, didn't they on the last time? He never got a full suspension because he got thrown out of the game. That was the reasoning, wasn't it?
Yeah. So now we can get the full suspension because he did get thrown out of the game. Yeah, it was just a fine. The hit on the pier.
So now you'd have two in a row.
Yep.
And it just doesn't look good.
And now you have to yell. And it's a stupid move by a player who should be smarter than that.
And even if it's the right move to suspend them, do it anyways because it's the move that looks best. It doesn't kill you. So every once in a while, justice not only has to be done, but look like it's being done. And in this case, that's what you got to have.
And it's got to happen. And I can't imagine the Argos at all protesting this because otherwise you're going to have to do something. You're going to have more team justice, and that's a pain for them. The last game, though, the last game looks like it's out of hand for 2.5, 3 quarters, and then suddenly the Eskimos remembered that they were playing for their playoff lives, and that maybe they should attempt to beat the Alouettes.
Well, and switching quarterbacks is huge. How many yards did he end up getting in that fourth quarter? 200?
Nickel,
230. I think he passed for 200 and some odd,
Yeah, 230
and 3
yards.
touchdowns, and if they don't have that, and boy, that was a marginal offside, and it didn't go to the guy who got the ball. But
no, it
was
didn't.
Offside, and it was and they don't have that. They have more time and about 80 or 40, 50 more yards. They might win that going away, But they, if ifs and ands were pots and pans, there'd be no need for tinkers, as my mom used to say. So you could look at any number of things in that game and say, well, the game could have actually been totally out of hand, have had one more thing happened in favor of Montreal. Montreal and Montreal and Edmonton, the history there too, of course, going back only just about 55 years is quite something. I guess that's the case in this league, though. I got every time you go
Everyone has it.
Talk about two teams, there's some incredible things. Which we found out a lot about as we were researching over the years. The end of Ivor Wynne,
when you look into the stories,
yeah, then you go, well, wow, this has been an incredible rivalry without these things. But we haven't been done well enough. In the West they have. But in the East we haven't done well enough in telling our own stories.
No.
And because the stories in this league are incredible. And that's the beauty of this 100th Grey Cup, isn't it?
Yeah, we're getting
revealing some of those stories.
Yeah, the Great Domination Series, again, is doing wonderful things.
That's just what TSN's doing, and boy, we owe them everything. That they'd saved the league. And that's just what they're doing, and they could only do, 8, right? And then Mark has his book out. And
there's a couple more. There's a couple more books
doing
coming
all
out.
kinds of stuff. What's that?
And there's a couple more books coming out. There's a couple, I think, November releases for the Grey Cup.
Right. And we'll find all those kinds of things. And, you know, our series is going to have our paper's going to have a major. We tried to get it done in June. It didn't happen. But in November, we'll be having a major series. The Star and the Sun, all the Toronto papers will be having things. And the West, of course, has never stopped.
Yeah.
And maybe this will allow us to continue to tell our stories. And here's what I've mentioned to a number of people before. Can you imagine if the Super Bowl had just one of the above, or the following, all right? The Mud Bowl, the Fog Bowl, the 13th Man, Bibble's Falls. Here's one very few people know about, late 30s, Red Story, hitchhikes to the game. And scores 3 touchdowns. Or in the Grey Cup
I remember learning that in high school. I was doing a history project, and I got to pick a sports story, and I've always been into football, so I went looking, and I went, how far back do I want to go? And I'm like, let's go to the Great Depression era. Let's go there. And I looked, and I found this story about Red Story, hitchhiking to the game. I'm like,
well, good for you, because nobody knows that story, isn't it?
That's the coolest thing ever. I love this.
I knew Red really, really well. He never tired of telling that story. And how about Ted Reeve? How about Ted Reeve plays in the game, blocks a kick, the key kick of the game, then has to write about it the next day because he's also a journalist.
Yep.
So, and he used to write a poem to start off every one of his columns in the Telegram, and the one he wrote on the Monday morning, which was because remember, people forget that the Grey Cups were always on Saturdays, and so on Monday his column started with, when I was young and in my prime, I used to block kicks all the time, but now that I'm old and gray, I only do it once a day. And that's the kick that won the cup. Okay, there's just 5 things that I've mentioned. Okay, that doesn't even count the overtimes or the great plays or the snow bowls and all of those things.
We've had a lot of those.
If the Super Bowl had one of those, how many movies would have been made?
I'm thinking at least 10.
10 or 15. You're like, just one of them. Like we've got about a dozen.
Yep.
We can hardly get a line in the artist. We've got to do a better job of not so much telling the stories, because obviously the Red Story one, that's a really good example, has been told, but of maintaining it.
Yeah, making sure that everybody knows it and that it's part of this collective league identity.
Yeah, and that's what our series is about coming up in November. It's the relationship of how the Grey Cup reflects the nature of Canada. I mean, it's easy to say East-West all this, but there's a lot more to it than that. It's
so much more than East-West.
Yeah, it's so much more. But that's integral to that, because this country is poorly designed. It was really never meant to go east-west. It was only the railroad that did it, right?
Yeah.
It always looked like it was going to go north-south, that it was going to be parts of the United States on various sides. And so that's the great kind of hard thing to hold together, is the east-westness of Canada. And so it's a really integral part of our cup. I think it's why we need a team in the Atlantic someday.
I agree. But, I mean,
I think if Regina has one, why couldn't... Yeah. Well, that's right. Isn't it been great with 8? They can intelligently plan the buys.
Yeah, it's gonna get ugly again with 9. I'm hoping they bring in a 10th, because again with 10 it'll be easy to intelligently plan buys. But
that's right, and you just give the one buy, and then I just love the way they've done it. Either all the West is off, or all the East is off, or they do half and half and cross everybody. And they make sure that everybody who plays the next week has had the same amount of time off. I think it's really great. And what we have to take it, we've always looked at the smallness of our league, Jen, and said that makes it minor league. We don't take a look enough. Although I think the CFL has really started to do this over the last 2 years and see what the strengths are. one of them is that scheduling. Two, you should be able to know the players. What's the biggest complaint when you talk to people who are a little bit older and say why they don't watch hockey anymore? Why?
Because you can't see them with the helmet on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know who they are.
Well,
the other thing is, we're going into the last week of the regular season. We still don't know who's making the playoffs. Like, we know 4 of the teams. We don't know those last 2.
That's a drawback in our league, but,
No, I think it's a great thing in the league that we don't know who it is.
I misspoke. It can be seen as a drawback and always has been. Because the reason it's like that is because of the weakness, a lot of the sort of competition. But at parity, I mean, everybody else has been looking for parity, and we've kind of had it off and on in this league forever. Partly because it's so easy to make the damn playoffs. Well, it's not much easier than it certainly is. It's about the same easiness as it was to make the playoffs in the NHL when it was 16 out of 21. The mathematics are roughly the same.
They're pretty much the same.
But what it does produce that thing at the end. I mean, baseball's added kind of a phony thing with that second wild card. Even the first wild card to me was beyond phony. They don't play.
Yeah, the second one doesn't help at all.
Well, the schedules are but they've done the same thing, which everybody else is, and you can bet that I think over the next 5 years to solve their economic problems, the NHL is going to add another round of playoffs. So everybody's trying to do what this league already has.
Yep.
Right down to the end, everybody has a shot at the playoffs. Let's get to know. I mean, one of the reasons there's an unbalanced schedule in hockey is not only the cost of it; it's just so that you develop rivalries that are intense, and that therefore the fans get to identify with the players more. And it's too bad we turn over players. So what was that stat? 85 different Eskimos. So that roster's been almost
completely turned over. Yeah.
At some point in time. Yeah.
Yeah. Going into week 19, again, we're also bringing up classic rivalries, right? We got Hamilton at Toronto. Yeah. It wouldn't matter if there's nothing on the line for these two teams. No. They are going to go at it. Yeah. Because I think that's what they do. Same with Calgary and Edmonton. I mean, I'm sure the Calgary Stampeders are just chomping at the bit. A, you want to go into a home playoff game with a win. But B, it's kind of fun to knock your cross-province rival out of the playoffs.
Oh, lots of fun. If you happen to be.
If Hamilton wins.
A lot of fun. But here's the other issue there. It's really hard to beat anybody in any sport 4 times in a year.
Yeah.
Right.
So can it happen? I mean, even the Winnipeg, again, Montreal doesn't want to go in to a bye week on a losing note.
No,
Winnipeg is now playing for some pride. Like it's just to salvage the remnants of pride from their season. So they have to do this.
Yeah.
And Saskatchewan at BC, again, you don't want to go into a bye week on a losing note. Yeah. So all 4 games in the last week have relevance.
Yeah, they do. And it's you sort of wonder when you mention Winnipeg there, do you play Buck? If he's all right? He probably isn't all right.
No, I'm guessing not. But
I think this is the point you got to say. Guy plays 1 every 2 games. At some point, and they had that issue here with Jesse Lumsden. Maybe the most talented cat to play here over the last 8 or 10 years, and they had to make that decision. I'm not sure I agreed with that decision, but it's you have to face it. Especially when it's a quarterback, because you build everything around it. I mean, the one thing that I think Winnipeg can salvage from this season, they have 3 guys who have played. They maybe you don't know how good they are, but each of them has come up with a little something. Elliott actually looked great against Hamilton. A couple of times, player of the week.
It could.
Sorry.
Yeah, I've got no clue what you do. Like, I'm not even making. I swear I'm not making picks this week because I'm looking at them going, I don't even know. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I have no clue. I have no idea on how to approach it. It's the first week I've looked at it and gone, wow, anybody really could win.
Well, for all of the reasons that we're talking about here, because you don't know where every team's coming from.
Yeah. The one thing we know is the Argos are hosting on Remembrance Day at 1 o'clock.
Right. But I don't know where they're coming from. I know where Hamilton's coming from.
Yeah, they need to win.
Yeah, I know where Edmonton's coming from in Calgary. I don't know where Calgary's coming from. I don't know what's happening in Montreal, where they're going to be coming from next week. I
think the Argos almost have to win.
BC's, pardon?
I think the Argos almost have to win because, they've lost their last 3 home games.
Yeah.
So you really don't want to go into playoffs having lost 4 straight at home.
Yeah, and for a number of reasons.
For one, you're not going to get back to seats.
Yeah, exactly. You not only have lost the home field advantage in in sort of winning and losing if you do that.
But you've lost.
But you'll have lost it you'll have lost it in terms of anybody coming to the game that might have been extra.
Yep.
You know,
and so that's a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah, luckily it's a Sunday thing, and by then they'll have started the Grey Cup hype. So, you know, maybe that it'll be more front of mind. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, it's Remembrance Day. I'm not going to be there. I'm at the Legion, but you know, I'm at the Legion Hall all day. It's Remembrance Day at 1:00. I'm at the Legion until 12:30, so I'm an hour and a half out of town. Too hard to get in, but you know, I mean, that's another reason to kind of almost hope that Edmonton doesn't make it in, because then they're playing at 11:00 on Remembrance Day.
Yeah, that's true.
Which, like 11:00 Mountain Standard Time on Remembrance Day, which is kind of, to my mind, PR not so good for the CFL.
Yeah, well, maybe they'll figure that out before then. Or I think they'll actually probably try to turn it into something positive. You know, in terms of,
you don't have an option. You kind of have to.
Yeah,
you got to spin it. You can't run up against Sunday Night Football. You got to run it. But
yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be it's a great. You know, we're less than a month to the Grey Cup.
Yeah.
It's an awesome. I can't recall feeling this excited for the Grey Cup, even knowing that my team is not likely to be there.
You know, I think the league is very quietly happy that Hamilton still has a chance. You know, so I think that would have been disastrous to have Edmonton playing in Toronto and then maybe potentially an all-Western Grey Cup. Although I don't see it.
I don't see them beating Montreal.
No, I don't see it anybody. But the trouble is Montreal has a nice hard core of people who are there, but they don't travel. You know, there's a few that do. They've come to Toronto. You'll get 1,000, which is maybe 1,000 more than you would have got 5 years ago.
Well, but except they're going to be fighting the 13-year-old girls for the Justin Bieber tickets, right?
Well, that's true. And it's sold out already. It's not like they have to sell it.
It's already sold out, but I'm sure the scalpers are thrilled.
We're talking about energy and thrills being generated in the city during the week, because that's part of the deal. I mean, part of the deal is that the Southern Ontario, that whole thing about the $1 million for Southern Ontario and the Grey Cup isn't part of the $1 million that, you know, Ticats got 500 and 1,000 and the Argos did, and likely they're not going to make the mistake one hopes of they made last time, which is, you know, you get finally some interest because it was the first Grey Cup last time they were here 5 years ago in Toronto.
Yeah.
First Grey Cup in Toronto in a dozen years or more, and I mean, it was 14 or 15 years, and people just really started to notice at the end, and it turned out that, you know, by the Saturday night it was pretty good downtown. Same phenomenon in Montreal. They had the phenomenon in Montreal. They hadn't had one for so long that the city really never cottoned on to it because their team wasn't in it. They hadn't cottoned on to it till around the Saturday. Well, the second time they played there, just a couple of years ago, by Thursday night it was a hell of a deal. Well, I'm hoping for that this time. Right,
by extending the festival, it should have done that as well, right? We've extended the Grey Cup Festival so that you're going a full week, so that's
a whole week, and so it should really be picking up. And then,
generate
but you want that second great influx of fans on the Thursday.
Yep.
Right, from Saskatchewan or Winnipeg, or that's not going to happen. Or Edmonton travels well. Calgary's okay. BC doesn't travel at all.
So that's one that's looking like it's what it's going to be.
That's where it's heading towards, and they don't bring their own excitement. The excitement will come from somewhere else, and you want one of the teams in there to have a
team that travels well.
Yeah.
That's really what did it for the 2007 Grey Cup in Toronto, because Saskatchewan came and Winnipeg came and wow.
Yeah, and also wasn't Manitoba in the Vanier Cup?
Yes,
one of the two had either Saskatchewan or Manitoba was in the Vanier Cup. There were 26,000 people there. It was great.
The Vanier Cup. It was a great game, and that's the other thing. I mean, there are still tickets available for the Vanier Cup, so.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't, you know, you don't want to now pay the Bieber scalper price for the Grey Cup ticket.
Yeah.
The Vanier Cup.
Well, it's
great value.
They're hoping MAC, of course, or Western, but I don't see Western getting through. But
no, I see MAC
Queens
possibly doing it.
Yeah, MAC possibly. You know, but whoever comes out of the West is pretty tough. I mean, Calgary lost last week, but they're the team, and so
it's going to be cool.
Only bring so many people. Yeah, it's going to be cool.
No. It's going to be an awesome week. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure I'll run into it however many events. Because I'll be running around doing both RougeRadio stuff and doing the Argo Band stuff. So I'm going to be – I thought it was busy last year. Yeah, I suspect there will be no time for sleeping this time.
Don't get the two confused.
Yeah, exactly. I won't bring my instrument to any of the media stuff. Well, it's small. It fits in my pocket. I play piccolo. It fits in my pocket. It's good.
Beautiful. So you're a piccolo pocket. And you know what? It's just, everybody talks about the tailgates in the NFL, blah, 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 blah. I'm so sick of that. And when we try to recreate that with the NFL games they've had in Toronto, it's an absolute joke because it's all sponsored and all those kind of. But the Grey Cup already has it in a different way. In a not, as you say, you don't have to worry about it, but it's there, prevalent, and it's perfect.
It's awesome. Thank you so much, Steve. I've been talking with Steve Milton from the Hamilton Spectator.
2, 1. Hello, football fans, and welcome to the RougeRadio playoff preview. I'm Kevin Garbuio, and I'm joined by JP Shoiry from acrofootball.com. JP, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be with you.
So we're going to start off just with the games out west. We have Regina hosting Saskatchewan. Who do you like in that one? What should we look for? Are we going to have Mark Mueller playing?
Well, I think so. He hasn't played last week, and with his team winning against Calgary, so that tells you that Regina is a pretty strong team. And now this week he comes in, he plays a little bit, throws an interception. Not a big performance, but obviously I haven't seen the game. But what I think is that they probably tested him out, see if everything is good with his health. But I expect Mark Mueller to be at his at the helm of the offense next week. Fifth-year player obviously doesn't want to miss out his last shot at a conference title. So next week, Saskatchewan, Regina, you're talking about two good teams. Regina on one side, they're built for this year with a lot of fifth-year players. And you have to expect, Regina to come out on top of this one. They're second in the conference. They beat Calgary. They're a well-balanced team. So obviously, it's a football season. So now everything that you've done throughout this season doesn't count really much. But one thing is certain is that this Regina football team is pretty strong. As for Saskatchewan, and I'm trying to look up the stats right now. They're on a 3-game winning streak. So they'll be playing at Regina next week. They lost to Regina 35-26. Early in the season, that was the fourth game of the season. And for now, these last 3 games, winning it big, 44-39 against Manitoba, then 27-10 to Alberta, and then this weekend against UBC, 52-24. So you're talking about an offense that really is scoring a lot of points recently. And that's probably what they're going to need to do is produce offensively to beat that Regina team. I think Regina comes out on top because of the leadership of Mark Mueller, having that veteran quarterback, in the playoff position. I just think Mueller has the edge, given that he's healthy and going full out. But, I expect Regina to come out on top, and then we should have a good matchup the next week, with Calgary that's probably going to come out on top of their matchup.
Well, Calgary last week playing against Manitoba, Calgary winning 78-54. Exciting matchup there. I know as a quarterback, you probably love seeing those numbers. Do you see a repeat of that, or do you see Calgary shutting it down in the first round of the playoffs? Their defense has looked phenomenal this season.
Oh yeah, Calgary has been really solid. Both on offense, on defense. They're top of the boards in almost everything, in almost every category. We can talk a bit about this game. Calgary, Manitoba. That they just played each other this weekend, like you said. It's ridiculous numbers. Calgary has scored 21 points in the first quarter, 42 points in the second quarter. I've never seen so many points in one half. Total offense, Calgary, they put up 776 yards of total offense, 557 through the air, 225 on the ground. You look at that, Mercer Timmins, which is not necessarily their star running back, given that that's Stephen Lumbala, but Mercer Timmins this week had 13 carries, 52 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So right now, Calgary is looking really solid offensively. Eric Zolewski, 25 of 27, 318 yards, 2 touchdowns. So right now you're talking about a team that was strong all season. They lost last week. A really unexpected turn of events. With that loss where their offense that has been producing at the high level, over 40 points a game, losing 12-9 against Regina with only 9 points scored. So you have to wonder, what happened after that defeat. But I like a team like Calgary, to face some adversities in the season. And now that loss against Regina has probably, kept everyone in the locker room alert and say, hey guys, this is going to be easy. This is some serious football, and we want to come into the playoffs with good momentum. So this performance, 78-54, is just a good sign on their part. You could be questioning 54 points allowed. That's a lot, but at half it was only 14 points that were allowed. 14 points. Manitoba scored 14 in the third and 26 in the fourth, and you have to expect by then, Calgary was probably playing their second stringers, maybe third stringers out there. So those points, they don't look good on the stat sheet, but really, you're not talking about Calgary, having their defense, not stepping up to the situation. They allowed 14 points a game in this season, so 107 points all season long, with 54 in this weekend. So really, their defense, like you said, really solid defense and on offense. So right now, I think Calgary is obviously going to win that matchup. They've shown us this weekend that they have what it takes to move on. But I'm looking forward to the conference final, with Calgary hosting that one, and probably Regina coming in. But you have to expect a good matchup in this strong Can West division. But maybe we could just talk a little bit more about Manitoba, just before we skip on to another conference. They 4-4. They had a good season, losing out to Calgary, winning against Alberta, UBC. But really, what happened for this Manitoba team is that they just haven't won the big games. Losing out 30-27 to Regina, and then losing out 44-39 to Saskatchewan. So it's just winning 37-31 against UBC. So when games have been tied, they haven't come out on top of that matchup recently. Early in the season, they won some tight games, but later on, you have to, they're losing out those battles. So you have to look at things as how is this team going to react? With the last game that just happened, losing out big to Calgary, and I just don't think that they have what it takes to beat a powerhouse like Calgary.
Well, Calgary looks like the team to beat coming out of that conference. It just seems to be loaded at all positions. We talk so much about their offense and then their defense as well, standing on their heads. And aside from that game, but with the season locked up, they're probably getting some of the reserves in. Now moving on to the OUA. Queens versus Guelph's an interesting matchup. Who do you have now? And last time they played at Guelph ended up roaring back with 30 unanswered points to take the lead. Do you see Queens allowing that to happen, or do you see Guelph being the team of destiny right now?
Well, I like Queens. I like Queens for many years. I think they're a good, well-balanced team, and most of all, well-coached team. Pat Sheehan has his team exactly where he wants. Coming in the playoffs, they would have liked to host that playoff game, but things happen, and then you have to move on. And I think that Queens is going to come in prepared. They have a strong offense. You're talking about at quarterback Billy McPhee, a young guy, but with really a lot of experience. And right now for him, is he going to be able to manage the football, take care of the football, and not create too many turnovers, with 9 interceptions in the season, and I've followed his season a lot, and that's one thing is, when they didn't perform as well is when McPhee turned the ball over. So right now, and I'm sure, Coach Sheehan is on Billy, every day in practice, but it's all about protecting the football. And in the playoffs, that's two things. It's protecting the ball and discipline. And right now, you have to think that Queens is going to come in prepared, like I said, with McPhee, but also, their running game, with Ryan Granberg, second leading rusher in the country. So they have a really balanced offense, and I think that offense is going to produce without a doubt. When you're talking about on the other side, Guelph, nobody really expected them to be that strong. Finishing second in the conference and hosting a playoff game. They're on I believe a 7-game winning streak. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's what it is. So right now, with the Guelph hosting that game, they have a ton of momentum, and you just have to expect them to come out ready to play. But there's one thing about this Guelph team that I'm just not sure about it. And yes, they've won some big games, against Queens, against Western this season, losing out to McMaster, but I'm just not convinced by their offense, and that starts off with starting quarterback Lindsay. I'm just not sure if he has what it takes, to win a playoff battle of this magnitude against Queens. We're talking about protecting the football, and recently, yes, they've won some games, but I've seen games with to I don't remember which one. I think it was in that win against Queens. I'm looking at the stats while we're talking. It was last game versus York, and so Guelph close out the season 39-18 against York, which is like a 2-16, so it's not really necessarily a force. And Lindsay throws for 40%. 10 of 25, 163 yards, 1 touchdown against the 21st ranked pass defense in the country. So I'm just questioning it out loud, and I haven't seen him play, and maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think that he's the type of leader of player that just can carry his team deep into the playoffs. It's kind of a Cinderella story for Guelph this season, and that's what you want. You like to see new programs on the rise coming up, and really backed by their university and everything. And I think it's a great time for the future. But right now, and we had Queens on the radar for the entire season. I just think that Queens is just a better program, a better team, and they're more prepared for this kind of situation. So for Guelph, I expect a tight battle, no doubt about it, but I think that Queens comes out on top of this one.
And McMaster against Western giving up 35 points to Windsor. I don't know how Western's going to go in without Donnie Marshall. I think Will Finch is also still starting at quarterback. Do you see any team knocking off McMaster, especially in the semifinals?
No, we're going to make one thing clear to start off. McMaster, in my book, is going to the Vanier Cup without a doubt, given that there's no injuries to key players. So that being said, I think McMaster is moving up. But this game against Western, nothing comes easy against Western, and they've had a tough season this year. I'm losing out to Queens, losing out to Guelph, losing out to Mac. It's not the same kind of performance that you use from this Western team. But, Coach Marshall has seen a lot of football in his career, and I'm sure he's going to come out with a team that's prepared and with a couple of wrinkles in his offense to try to score some early points against Mac. But, for Western, it's all about the run game. They average 289 yards a game. That's just unbelievable. Nearly 300 yards on the ground a game. So, for them, it's going to be key to establish that run game. And it all starts, obviously, with Garrett Sanvito, the leading rusher, with 1,000 yards this season. 13 touchdowns, only 3 fumbles. So, for Western, they lose Varga, they lose their 2 top running backs. Coming into the season, and then there you go. They still have the leading rusher with Garrett Sanvito. So if they can establish that run game and early in the game, and then go off with some play action and get their QB outside of the pocket, running the ball, because we've seen big performances by Will Finch, on the ground as well. They can come in and make this a tight one, without a doubt. But for them, like I said, run game. They need to pound the ball, control the clock, and then make a couple of big plays out of that. Is Will Finch going to be able to carry his team? He's been banged up a little bit also. Will Finch is going to be a great player. He's going to have an awesome career in the CI. But right now, going to Mac, facing the top team in the country. I think it's just going to be a great challenge. I believe he's going to learn a lot. I believe he's going to perform well, but I just don't think that the Western will be able to stop Kyle Quinlan and his offense. And, their defense is really top of the boards as well. So Mac wins out this one, I think in convincing fashion, but not a blowout, not at all. I think Western is definitely, up there. It's a top 10 team in the country. And once again, it's that the strength of their program that just tells me that, this team is going to come in prepared, knowing that they have a shot at beating Mac, and they're going to give it everything they have. But yeah, so this is the picture for me. I think that's a Queens and Mac face off in the OUA final 2 weeks from now.
That'll be an interesting matchup. Last year, that was one of the defining moments for Mac when they defeated Queens at home. And moving on to what's happening in the Q, last week on this very podcast, we were talking to Michelle Belanger from the CIS, and we were talking about Bishops playing against Laval. Why isn't that happening anymore?
Yeah, well, there's a big mess right now going on in the RCQ. Concordia had played an ineligible player early in the season, in their opening matchup against Bishops. So because of that, that win goes to Bishops, and now Bishops, back in the playoff picture, and with the situation with ineligibility, it surfaced again last Friday night on Twitter. So the Twitter sphere goes crazy because we learned that Bishops might have used an ineligible player in that same game as well. And then later on in the weekend, Saturday morning, John Bauer of the RCQ confirms that there was an investigation on all 6 teams, but that only one player came out to be ineligible, and that's a player from Bishop. So what happens is that opening game between Concordia and Bishops, well, there's no winner to it. Both teams lose out because of ineligibility problems to their players. So what you have now is 2 teams that just lost a critical game, and now Bishops at 2-6 in a 9-game season, and Concordia at 1-7 in a 9-game season, which is kind of awkward. So both teams now drop down in the standings, and McGill is the big winner in this one because with a ranking of 2 wins and 7 losses, they squeeze into the playoffs in the 4th spot. So just to clarify that situation, the problem right now in the queue is that you have players coming from different backgrounds. Some players have played CJEP. Some players have played in Ontario or somewhere else in Canada. Some players have played, in civil, where they're where they live and haven't aligned in the scholarship system. So what you have is all those players coming from different backgrounds. Well, there's different regulations to each one of those, and each team just doesn't have the manpower to just double check everything. So they rely a lot on the information that the player gives them as of, where they have played before coming to university. So if a kid comes in, and that's the same situation for Concordia and Bishop. So the kid comes in and goes, well, I played 3 years at CJEP, and now I'm in university, so you have an 8-year window. But what he didn't tell them is that prior to playing CJEP, well, he played some other football. And then he didn't tell them that, so that right now, those 2 players have actually entered the season in their 9th season when you only have an 8-year window. That's 3 for CJEP and 5 for university. So that's the situation right now. And from speaking with John Bauer, they're really looking into it, to resolve that situation, making sure that the regulations are a lot simpler and clearer for everyone. So we should expect changes for next year, that's for sure. So, that being said, McGill squeezes in the 4th place. They're in the playoffs. They're going to face Laval next week. And now Sherbrooke, in 3rd place, will be in Montreal for what looks to be, a huge game.
Well, if we're going to be talking MVPs, I guess McGill's MVP has to be the registrar.
and I think I saw you tweet that one as well. And and that's the thing is the teams just don't have enough resources to just double check everything. So yeah, you have to give credit to Laval, Montreal, Sherbrooke, and McGill for just making sure that their players were eligible. And right now, Bishops and Concordia just lose out to that. And Concordia finishing in 6th place. 3 years ago, they were in the Dunsmore Cup and almost won out that one with Liam Mahoney at quarterback. So right now, Concordia are really on a free fall. And you need to expect changes for the next season.
Well, from the looks of it, Laval should be able to beat McGill, even though it was close last time they played at Pep Stadium or Telus Stade now. But the Sherbrooke-Montreal game is the one that I'm really interested about. Last time those two teams played, it was a close one with Montreal not able to really start steamrolling Sherbrooke. Sherbrooke really hung in there defensively.
We'll talk about Montreal-Sherbrooke first, and that's, the marquee matchup of the weekend. Montreal 2nd place at 8-1, Sherbrooke, 3rd place at 6-3. And they've played each other twice this season, and twice Montreal has won. They won 38-14, on September 1st, first game of the season, and then they won 15-6 on September 22nd. So right now, that's two teams that have played each other twice this season, but it's been over a month that they haven't seen each other, and a lot has changed since then. Sherbrooke is now on a 4-game winning streak. Montreal obviously, still good, with 8-1, beating Laval, and they're on their win streak as well. But Sherbrooke, and I was at the game this weekend, and for Sherbrooke, it all starts on the offense with Jeremy Rock, their quarterback. He's the guy, and if he's having a good game, well, the team has a chance to win, and if he's not having a good game, well, you can forget about it. Right now, Sherbrooke really unidimensional on offense. They're throwing the ball with a lot of success, top 5 with over 300 yards per game. J-Rock is really good managing the football. You look at his touchdown INT ratio, he's top of the board, only topped by Kyle Quinlan. So Rock, 18 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So that is really good for a second-year player. And that's going to be the key next week, is just to manage that football. I've said it, we're talking about Queens, and now it's the same thing for Sherbrooke. On offense, they need to protect the ball. They need to make sure not to give it to Montreal, because Montreal has that killer instinct that will just make you pay for your mistakes. But like I said, for Sherbrooke, it's through the air, because on the ground, they're the worst team in the country. With this week, they're now the 2nd worst team with 79 yards on the ground each game. And, the playoffs, the temperature gets cooler, and you never know what happens, if you get some rain, some snow in there. So you need to be able to run the football. And Sherbrooke just hasn't had any kind of success this season running the football. Even this weekend against McGill, they couldn't close out the game on the ground. They had to throw the ball to close out the game. So that's really the biggest question mark for them on offense. And they're going to face a defense that is just stout. That's probably your best defense in the country there in Montreal. They're top of the board on defense in point per game, in yards per game, and in rush yards per game, with only 59 yards on the ground. Top of the board with 39 sacks in the season. So Montreal is just really solid on defense. Jean-Samuel Blanc, their defensive end, just has tied the CIS record with 12.5 sacks in the season. So he's just having a monster season. Looking at their linebacking core, they're solid across the board, and their DBs are good as well. But the only weakness for that Montreal defense is probably on the white side DB squad. Their quarterback and their halfback on the white side. That's probably where you can beat them. And if there's one team out there that can do it, it's probably Sherbrooke, because they have what it takes to throw that football. But looking back at last year, both teams faced off in the semifinals last year as well. Sherbrooke had won the 2 meetings in the season, and now Montreal came into Sherbrooke and just kicked their butt, winning that one and moving on to the Dunsmore. And what Montreal had done last year, and we probably can expect the same thing this season, is that they just didn't respect Sherbrooke's run game at all. They emptied the box with an extra defender in the coverage, and Sherbrooke just wasn't able to throw the football for the entire game. And as Montreal had gambled on, Sherbrooke wasn't able to run either. So, I kind of expect the same strategy from their defensive coordinator, Noel Thorpe, this weekend, where you can see an empty box, no unblocked players, just playing man-on-man and trying to win those battles and making sure that Sherbrooke just doesn't complete those deep passes that we've seen J-Rock throw. On the other side of the ball, you have a Montreal offense that is really well-balanced. Alex Nadeau-Pugh is their quarterback. Fifth-year quarterback is just having the best season of his career by far. I mean, you've never had a Montreal quarterback, top of the charts in yards and other statistics. But Nadeau-Pugh is 7th in the country, with 2,100 yards. He's completing 68% of his passes, and that is really something, coming from Montreal, and that's traditionally been more of a run team. And, he's managing the football well, 13 touchdowns, 5 INTs. So if he can have a good game and just, manage the football, his players are probably going to make him look good, especially on the run game. Ransonné, probably the best runner in the conference, backed up by Nicolas Dubois, a rookie who's done a really good job as well. So I think Montreal comes in at this one really passive on defense, letting things come to them, and on offense is just about, running that football, managing the clock, going play action, running a little bit with Hughes, who had 2 rushing touchdowns this weekend, and then it can all come down to the special teams, and both teams have great returners. But, you have to give the edge on the kickers for Sherbrooke. William Dion, 5th-year player, your CIS all-time leader in field goals. So, it's going to be a tight one. And the thing I want to point out is that it's really hard for a team to beat the same opponent 3 times in one season. So Montreal has won twice, but will they be able to do it as a 3rd time? That is really hard. Their home field is probably going to give them the edge. So you can't expect Montreal to go through this one and face Laval in the Dunsmore, but Sherbrooke definitely has what it takes to beat Montreal. And for them, it's just, if they can manage just a little bit of run game, that's going to give some breathing room to J-Rock. And, from there, he's a top, he's a top 3 quarterback in the country, and he can make it all happen. So if he can have some protection and run the football, that's going to help him well. Just before we leave out this game, just want to note that the Sherbrooke defense, and I was looking at the numbers last week, and we don't really talk about their defense, but they're right up the boards as well. Top 3 in the rushing yards allowed per game. They're one of the top teams in takeaways in the country, and they're the team with the most defensive touchdowns with 5. So right now you're talking about a Sherbrooke team that is looking to protect the quarterback, protect the football on offense, and on defense it's all about creating turnovers, being aggressive, and disrupting the other team. So, you said it, everybody knows it is going to be a great matchup between these two rivals, and we can expect a good one Saturday in Montreal.
And moving on to the last matchup, we already know Acadia is in the Loney Bowl, though. They have a spot for the Jewett Trophy. It'll be Mount Allison and St. Mary's taking place at Husky Stadium. I personally thought that X was going to get into it, but X falling off the map. Mount Allison slipping in despite Alex J. Wallach saying that this was a program that needed to be removed. They're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
What do you see happening in this one?
Yeah, I remember that post. It's a strange conference, really. You don't really know what to expect from this conference. Acadia is definitely the top dog in the AUS, and like you said, they're just waiting to see who they're going to play. But right now, this game, Mount Allison, I've seen them play McGill early in this season, losing out to McGill. And I just can't believe that this team is in the playoffs. And it's no disrespect to anyone, but really, you're talking about a team that has their ass kicked by McGill, a team that is 2-7, in the queue. So Mount Allison, but you need to look at the numbers, and what you see still is that Mount Allison knows how to run the football. And from seeing them play one game, Jordan Botay is just a man amongst boys on that field. He's huge, he's solid. You can't bring him down with only one tackler. So he's probably their top player on offense. I mean, without a doubt, he's their top player on offense. 196 carries this season, 878 yards, 7 touchdowns. He did fumble the ball 4 times, So for them to have a shot at winning this one, well, they need to establish that run game, and they need for their best players to be their best players on the field, and that starts with Boutte, because they haven't had success throwing the football at all this season. On the other side of town, you have a St. Mary's team that really, when we were talking about a matchup between St. Mary's and Mount Allison, well, you didn't need to argue a lot to say, well, St. Mary's going to win easily that one, but things have changed since Coach Samara has left, and there's big question marks on that program, regarding who's their starting quarterback, what are they doing on offense really. They've had some success running the football recently. This weekend, they're closing out this. They just closed out the season with a really statement win, 49-3 against St. FX. So they come in the playoffs with some momentum. They managed 615 yards of total offense in that game, and that is just looking at the numbers, 142 through the air, no interception, so that is key, but 473 yards rushing the football. That is just a lot of rushing yards, and it comes in. They have two running backs with over 100 yards, and that's Melvin Abankwa with 206 yards. You have Michael Dawes as well, 123. So add to that Dave Sabourin with 76 rushing yards as well. So it's not only one player that gives all the yardage. That's what you get from Mount Allison. On St. Mary's, they have a couple players who can run the football and make some damage. So, I expect St. Mary's to go through, win that one. I wouldn't say it would be easy, but it's all about for them, just making sure not to do too many mistakes, take care of the football, be disciplined, and let the game come to you, and you're talking, the starting quarterback, Jean Legault, I know him really well. He used to play at Lennoxville, so I coached him during the summers. And that's a kid that's a bit limited throwing the football. He can run it well, but for him, it's just about, and that's what I used to tell him, is just, take what the defense gives you, and his players are going to make plays. Kevin Woodrich is a wide receiver, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns in the last game of the season. So just make sure not to the ball over, be disciplined, and St. Mary's is going to win that one because Mount Allison is just too unidimensional running the football with Boutte. So we should have a matchup of Acadia and St. Mary's in the AUS final. But just a quick word on that one. Acadia is looking really solid right now. Kyle Graves is in total control of his game. So St. Mary's needs a statement win to gain some more momentum going to that one, or it's going to be a blowout for Acadia.
And with that, just your last statement, who do you have for the Hec Creighton? The regular season's done, and the voting should be done fairly soon. Who do you have as number one for the MVP of the league?
Well, you don't need the voting for that. I mean, Cal Quinlan is definitely the guy. There's no debate on that. He's the best quarterback that the CIS has produced in years. I mean, you look at the numbers, and this guy is just playing some amazing football. Completing 69% of his passes for 2,500 yards. But it's the touchdown to INT ratio, 19 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. That's amazing. But when you talk about Cal Quinlan, you also talk about a guy who runs the football. I mean, he's been productive on the ground. It's just crazy the numbers that he can put up on the ground. And I'm going on the website right now trying to find those numbers. And yes, he's put up some yards, but it's in the touchdown column that you really see his impact. 7 touchdowns on the ground, 550 rushing yards in the season. That's 10 yards a carry for Cal Quinlan. So he's a guy that just can't do it all. He's proved it last year, winning the Vanier with his team. Came back this year after a stint with the Owls, and you can just tell that this kid is ready to be a pro. He just wants to end his career, with another Vanier, but the Hec is already in the books for Quinlan. I mean, in my book, there's no discussion about it.
Thanks for joining us and trying to help us clear up that Q situation and give us some insight to the season or into the postseason. Thank you very much, JP. For JP Shoiry, I'm Kevin Garbuio, and this is another edition of Rouge Radio.
Once you have the exterior of your house taken care of and are ready to start that winter project, why not do a feature wall? Your stone panels are just as beautiful inside as they are outside, so why not add a little flair to the living room, dining room, or den? Other possible applications include retaining walls, deck wraps, gate posts, planters, yard lights, wainscoting, garden sheds, and outdoor kitchens. You are limited only by your imagination. Whether you are doing renovations, new construction, or just looking for that accent to put your home over the top, your stone panels will get you there. On an installed basis, the cost is about half that of real or cultured stone, and it's so simple, you won't need to hire a professional. Make it a weekend project. You will wow your neighbors and impress your friends when they see your upgraded home. Introducing new Your Stone Professional Series panels at yourstonepanels.com. www.yourstonepanels.com to learn more about the faux stone panel that is taking the building industry by storm. We have a knowledgeable distribution team throughout the U.S. and Canada. Again, that's www.yourstonepanels.com, yourstonepanels.com.
Welcome to RougeRadio.com CJFL Report. I'm Josh Aldrich, and I'm joined once again by John DeNapoli. John, it appears the Canadian Bowl has a few participants.
That's right, Josh, and at least for one of them, it's not who we were necessarily expected. In the BCFC championship game, for the first time in 7 years, we have a new Cullen Cup champion as the Langley Rams went into the island and beat the Vancouver Island Raiders 20-13.
Yeah, John, it was a game marred by mud and turnovers. Early on, it looked like it was going to be a shootout, but after the first few drives and a 14-10 lead for Langley, the game got bogged down in torrential rain. Neither team had much success moving the ball after the first quarter as the Rams managed 2 field goals and the Raiders won with less than 3 minutes to go, and to make the end of the game a little more interesting. The contest turned into a turnover fest in the second half as the two teams combined for 10 turnovers, 7 of them by the Raiders. But there could have been even more as the Raiders defenders dropped multiple interception opportunities. Raiders linebacker John Jones recovered 3 fumbles for Vancouver Island. Meanwhile, the Rams' Tanner Hamad had 2 interceptions, and Carlo Graziano recovered 2 fumbles and had an interception as well. Ari Nakagawa forced 2 fumbles and recovered 1, and Jordan Lennon added an interception, and Kyle Griffin added a forced fumble. In his final game as a Raider, record-breaking quarterback Jordan Yance finished 16 of 34 for 213 yards with the 4 interceptions and no touchdowns, but led the team in rushing with 73 yards on 6 carries, while Whitman Timotsiak had 6 receptions for 112 yards. Greg Bocott had a much better day under center for Langley, going 10 of 20 for 247 yards, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, and was named Offensive Player of the Game. Star receiver and returnman for Langley, Nick Downey, had 5 catches for 85 yards and 1 touchdown, while Malcolm Williams had 2 catches for 40 yards and 1 score. Downey was bottled up, however, in the return game, picking up just 6 yards on 3 punt returns after taking back 6 kicks during the season. It was a rough way for the Raiders veterans like Yance and Michael Shaper and Tremaine Apperly to end their careers, but I don't think it was the result. The result left anyone in shock. The Rams have a solid team, a tough defense, and 3 very good young weapons on offense. This win was far from a fluke, and they should be very good for a long time and definitely put up a pretty good fight in the Canadian Bowl.
Now, getting over to Jordan Yance and his 4 picks in his final game as a junior Vancouver Island Raider, is this going to put a damper on all the accomplishments this young fellow's put up in these 4 years at the helm?
Right now, it's what have you done for me lately, right? But this is a guy who has 4 BCSC titles to his name, 2 Canadian Junior Football League titles to his name. He owns every record in the book, including being the only passer to go over 10,000 yards, only passer to go over 100 touchdowns in his career, and he's also the single season passing record holder as well. Right now, it kind of sucks. It's not the way he wanted to end his career, and this was his chance to really lead the team to a CJFL title. Those back-to-back titles he had in his first 2 years, he was kind of the second-string quarterback, and those teams were driven by Andrew Harris and a few other offensive stars that were on that team. This was his chance to be that guy, to lead them from start to finish in the season and be the center of attention. So it's kind of a bitter loss for him, but he has nothing to really hang his head about. He had a tremendous career with the Raiders, and wherever he decides to go next, he should be successful there as well. So it's a little bit bitter for him right now, especially after last year, after they lost to the Saskatoon Hilltops, the Jostens Cup, the national semifinal. They steamrolled everybody that season up until that game. They kind of got into a bit of a slobber knocker kind of fest or game, and it didn't turn out so well. This was supposed to be that season of redemption, that season where he kind of proved whatever, if he had any critics left, it was his chance to prove he could lead a team to a national title. But in the end of it, the records speak for themselves. He has BCFC titles, and I know he would have really liked to have that extra national championship as well. So still a tremendous career, and I think when people look back at it, that's what he'll be looked at as, the best quarterback to ever play in the Canadian Junior Football League. Most of his records will be untouchable for a long, long time.
Yeah, I know I've followed this young fellow for a couple of years now in the CJFL, Jordan Yance. So from you and I, we tip our cap to Jordan Yance. And we got a question here from one of our listeners this week. Steve Desio asked us the future of Jordan Yance if he was to lose on Saturday. Would he be joining the BC Lions practice roster as he was there in the training camp right up until the end? So your thoughts on that, maybe Jordan Yance and picking up his career with the BC Lions?
Right now, it doesn't look like he will be joining them for on their training roster. He had a pretty good career, obviously a great season this year, but it doesn't sound like he will be joining them. There's only a certain number of practice roster spots available with the BC Lions, especially heading into the playoffs. And I think they have 3 or 4 quarterbacks on their roster already, with one already on the practice roster. So there's not really space for him there. I know he's been in touch with teams throughout the season, but nothing really solidified. He will more than likely end up at a CIS school next season, whether it's UBC or McGill or more than likely his hometown University of Regina. But a lot still needs to be figured out there. He hasn't committed to anybody as far as I know, but that's his likely landing spot, the CIS.
Now, the other one that our listener wanted to talk about was Kyle Quinlan of the McMaster Marauders of the CIS. He asked about him maybe possibly going back to the BC Lions, and I can tell you that Kyle Quinlan and his McMaster Marauders are going to do everything in their power to defend their CIS Vanier Cup championship of last year. And Kyle's a talent and a fifth-year player, so I expect him to finish off his career strong with the Marauders up in Hamilton, Ontario. So I don't foresee Kyle Quinlan making it to their practice roster anytime this season. So, but I do expect both Yance and Quinlan to eventually have a future in the CFL as two of the better young Canadian quarterbacks in our country. So if you get a chance to watch these two young fellows play anytime, they're a treat to watch, and I know they're great quarterbacks.
Absolutely. By no means is their future decided or over. And with kind of, I think, a more renewed interest and more of an agenda of recent years to give Canadian talent a chance at quarterback in the CFL, where there's been more quarterbacks who are coming out of the CAS who are getting that chance in camp to really prove themselves. I think they'll definitely have at least one more chance each at the CFL level. There's enough teams out there, especially with Ottawa coming back into the league in the next year or so, where there's going to be that demand, and I think more of even a demand from the public to see these guys succeed and see these guys have that opportunity to be a star in the CFL. So there's nothing guaranteed with them, but definitely they should get a chance in the future, just not this season. So we'll see what happens there. Now, the team that the Rams will be hosting in Langley on November 10th for the Canadian Bowl has been there and done that before they will play the Saskatoon Hilltops, who will be looking for their third straight title after beating the London Beefeaters out of the Ontario Football Conference 51-7 in Saskatoon to win this Jostens Cup. And, John, it doesn't sound like this one was very close at all. Obviously, the score 51-7 was a blowout, but it sounded like it started early and just carried on through.
Yeah, this was a blowout very early on as in the second play of the game. Mind you, the game was played with a wind chill of minus 14 degrees Celsius, so it was a very cold and frigid afternoon, and it did not start good for the London Beefeaters. 2 plays into the game, start running back Kyle Wildenberg-Puda fumbled, and 3 plays later, Tom Shockey ran one in on a 1-yard run with the Zach Schmidt convert, and 2:50 in, it's 7-0 Saskatoon. The next possession for London, they get a first down, and they think they're going to move it, and penalties bog them down a little bit, and they get into punting. And just when you think Saskatoon's really got a chance to blow this game open, they go for a trick play where quarterback Matt Karpinka throws to backup quarterback Jared Andrechuk lined up as a wide receiver, and he's got his guy wide open, and it looks like it's going to be an 80-yard touchdown, and he overthrows him. So London catches a break, and they think they're in the game, and they turn the ball over again and on an interception, and before you know it, Kyle McGinnis gets a 9-yard pass from Karpinka late in the first quarter, and it makes it 14-0, and it was literally downhill from there. It was a good day for the London Beefeaters offensively, amassing just a mere 48 yards of offense net in the first half altogether. Things didn't get better for London in the second quarter as quarterback Rob Lyons was picked off just 34 seconds into the quarter and ran back 30 yards for a touchdown by Chris Friesen, making it 21-0 just 34 seconds in. On the ensuing kickoff, London fumbles the ensuing kickoff and recovered by Saskatoon again. And a couple plays later, Andrechuk does a quarterback draw from 22 yards out, and we're just 2.5 minutes into the second quarter, and it's already 28-0. And it just kept bowling, and everything that the London Beefeaters did on this day just couldn't get anything going. They get a couple of plays that were good and didn't pass midfield until 30 seconds to go in the second quarter. So the lead got stretched to 42-0 at the half, and it was really over really early in the first quarter, and it was a blowout at half at 42-0. In the second half, Saskatoon again recovered the opening kickoff where it kind of bounced around, and Saskatoon was the last team to knock it out of bounds. So they had great field position in the ball to start the second half, and they couldn't move the ball. London's defense hankered down and made a stop, and it took a Zach Schmidt missed field goal from 45 yards out, and went in for a single, and they weren't able to get it out, so extended their lead to 43-0. The lone bright spot for London came in that third quarter. They lined up for a 42-yard field goal from Zach Medeiros, but it was a fake, and Chuck Wall threw to Riley McMurray for a 37-yard touchdown, and it was their only score of the day, and that made it 43-7 with the Medeiros convert. And second half just not good for either team. Nobody could really move the ball. The scoring ended with a Coleman Young 36-yard touchdown reception from Karpinka with just about a minute 55 to play in the fourth quarter. That made it 51-7 and closed the book. And really it was just a dreadful day for the London Beefeaters. The OFC champs were not able to get anything going on the ground. The three-headed monster in the backfield of Joel Klubine and Kyle Wildenberg-Puda and Travis Ryan totaling just a mere 60 yards of offense on the ground. So the big rushing attack just wasn't there for them to be had. So we get the two-time defending national champs going to go to Langley and try to defend their title and become 3-time defending national champs.
Now, I know you watched this game. When I've talked to Vancouver Island Raiders head coach Matt Snoop Blocker, the Hilltops were the team he was really concerned about. Even with the undefeated Calgary Colts at the end of the year, the Hilltops was a team that he knew was going to be tough at this time of year. What did you like about the Hilltops? I know next week we'll get into this more in depth as we set up the Canadian Bowl, but what do you really like about the Hilltops, and what's going to make them tough to beat next week? What's going to be the calling card? Do you think they're pretty well set up to repeat for their third straight championship?
Actually, I do, Josh. No disrespect to the Langley Rams, as you cover out in BC, but I watched this game today, and I saw a well-oiled machine. They caused turnovers. It wasn't like London was just kind of putting it on the ground or getting intercepted. They make their own breaks defensively. They cause you to turn the football. They put pressure on the quarterback. They get after the running back quite a bit. They made some really big hits, and then make some turnovers. And when they do get the turnovers, they make you pay. At one point in the first half, London had turned the ball over 4 times in the first half at one point, and it led to 28 points for the Hilltops. So they make you pay when you turn the football over. If Langley can hang on to the football and not turn it over, they got a real chance to knock them off. And we'll get into that next week. But this is a well-oiled machine. I've yet to see a defense play like this. They rally to the football. They have a real deep offensive unit. They had a bunch of guys run the football, and Wayne Dell Lewis and Andre Lalonde and Brendan Gribba and Tom Shockey. And then they get, backup quarterback like Andrchuk gets in the game, him splitting time with Matt Karpenka. Combined 198 yards and 4 touchdowns between the two of them on the day. So it was a really good 1-2 mix. Andrchuk got able to run and scramble and was able to score on a 22-yard quarterback draw. Kind of made a touchdown out of nothing, broke a couple of tackles around the 10-yard line. Like I said, they're a well-oiled machine, and I can't wait to see this final because they put a drubbing on London this weekend in the Jostens Cup game at the Gordie Howe Bowl. And I don't see, honestly, any team beating this team here on out.
It should be great. That championship experience, that plays so much into that being a well-oiled machine. And the Raiders lived off of that for years with their 6 straight BCFC championships. So, yeah, definitely. Langley's going to be in tough on November 10th. But that wraps it up for this week's CJFL report on RougeRadio.com. For John DeNapoli, I'm Josh Aldrich, and we'll be back next week to set up the Canadian Bowl with an in-depth look at the game and everything going on around it. So we'll catch you then.